Lily, do you speak Mandarin?
Sorry?
Do you speak Chinese?
No.
Do you live in Shanghai?
Yeah, just for 2 months.
Just for 2 months. For traveling?
For my study.
For your study of what?
Geography.
Geography.
Yeah.
Okay. How big is Beijing?
No.
No, okay. Not specifically about the size of the city. Okay. Beijing, the size of Beijing is 16,800 square kilometers.
Okay.
So that is about 2.5 times the size of Shanghai.
Okay.
16 Hong Kong or 22 Singapore.
Okay.
Yes. So Lily, the school license you take in Shanghai is given by English.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this way it's pretty cool here. So the buildings beyond those gates were the living quarters for the emperor, empress, and their ladies. So those are male officials. They do not allow to step their foot into those court without the permission from the emperor.
When you mentioned the monogamous emperor, what happened to all the women that were living here? They lost all the concubines. They just lost their jobs, or they stayed here?
Yeah, he didn't have concubines. The concubines, from the previous dynasties were kicked out of the Forbidden City.
Yeah.
So there's only one lady that he loved and married.
And he had children with her?
Only one child, one son and one daughter. But the son didn't do a very good job.
Did you say Confucianism is also called Moism?
No, that's two different philosophies. Yes.
Okay.
We have the Mohism and Confucianism and many other different philosophies back in the days.
Is one older than the other?
Yeah, pretty much. They're originated from the same period. But Confucianism is the most popular one. Okay, gentlemen, let's take a short break over here. Okay, hold on. Too many school kids. This way here. Okay, we're about to visit the inner court in the Forbidden City. But now let's take a break for 20 minutes. Okay? There's a restroom over here. We can use the restroom. And if you want, you can also go to that souvenirs shop. That is one of the largest souvenirs store in the Forbidden City. Okay? And also, over here, right next to the tree, there's an opening, small opening. Next to the umbrella, right there, there's a man just walking into that place. There's a coffee store where you can buy iced coffee. Okay? And that store also have the mineral water, the bottled water. And they also have the vending machine down there, but they require like a WeChat scanning to open the door. Okay, let's see now it's 10:50. Let's do 11:05. Back here, right here at this board. So the palace we're looking at is the Hall of Heavenly Purity, the living residence for the emperor in the Ming and early Qing dynasties. That building is divided into three parts: the middle chamber, and the west and the east chambers. The middle chamber was the place where the emperor handled daily affairs and gave audiences to those high-ranking officials, as the west and the east chambers were the places where the emperor slept. People put 27 beds in those two chambers because the emperor didn't want people to know where they were sleeping at night. In 1542, there was one emperor who was nearly being assassinated right here in this palace by those palace girls. Those girls, they snuck into the palace, tried to strangle the emperor to death, but they failed and given the death penalty eventually. Because the emperor didn't treat them very well. That emperor who obsessed with the longevity pill, whenever he took the pill, he would become very moody and very unpredictable. He would punish or even kill those palace girls. Okay, so after that incident, the emperor put 27 beds in those places, in those two palaces to avoid of being assassinated again. And there are a lot of small buildings built around this courtyard. The one here with the door open, that one is very popular during the Qing dynasty, which is called Jingshi Fang, and that could be translated as the Office of Respectful Affairs, where the head eunuchs work at. Head eunuch, their job was to oversee those eunuchs and the palace maid working in the Forbidden City. And another job for those people to do is to write down the emperor's daily activities in details, especially the emperor's daily activities with those ladies, intimate activities with the ladies. They need to write down the exact date and time for the future verification of the pregnancy. It is said that every night after having dinner, those eunuchs would offer a tree to the emperor, which contains many name tags of those ladies. If the emperor wanted to spend like 2 hours with a lady, he would pick up one name tag, flip it over, give it to the eunuch. The eunuch would run to that lady's place and get lady notified. The lady would take the bath, put on the perfume, and being escorted by the eunuch into this palace where they could sleep with the emperor for 2 hours maximum. The eunuch would stand right outside the palace to monitor the time. If it went too long, more than 2 hours, the eunuch standing outside the palace would yell to the emperor, "Time's up. You have to take good care of your dragon body, your majesty." If they yell 3 times, they had to let the lady go based on their ancestral rules, regulations, because that's the hard lesson, the harsh lesson they learned from their previous counterpart in the Ming Dynasty compared to the one we saw at the beginning. The plaque, the name plaque, which is hung above the central entrance, is written in 2 languages, in both the Chinese and Manchurian. Because Manchurian, they have their own culture, own language, and own style, a written system. They come to China and established Qing Dynasty. That's why all those plaques in the inner court were written in 2 languages, both Chinese and Manchurian. You know, China is a vast country, which contains 56 ethnicities. Han is the largest. Pretty much everybody you are seeing now, we are Han Chinese. But another 6% of Chinese people consist of 55 ethnic minorities. Manchurian is one of them. Okay, let's continue this way. So that's the place where the emperor handled the daily affairs. So 10 of them over here. Okay, so there are 3 palaces are built in the inner court, have the same layout. Just like the buildings we saw in the outer court, 3 major palaces built in the outer court, and 3 of them were built symmetrically in the inner court as well. The Hall of Heavenly Purity, the one we just saw, was constructed for the emperor, where the emperor slept. And the one in the back, Hall of Earthly Tranquility, that was the living quarter for the empress in the Ming Dynasty. And Earth refers to the empress, okay? But you know, the last emperor in the Ming Dynasty who committed suicide by hanging himself, before he took his own life, he gave the order to his empress, and he said to her, "You are the mother of the nation. You are supposed to kill yourself as well." So she took the order and hung herself in that palace before the emperor killed himself. And when those Qing emperors arrived in the Forbidden City, they never wanted to live in that palace because they considered that palace was a haunted place, was a cursed place. So those ladies in the Qing Dynasty, they moved either on the west or on the east along the central axis. That building was converted into a place where they performed shamanism. Okay, shamanism, that's a kind of a religion practice by those Manchurian people in the Qing Dynasty. Those little and small shabby building were the living quarters, temporary living quarters for those eunuchs. Those are poor boys. Most of the eunuchs, they work in the Forbidden City during the daytime, but they had to move out of the Forbidden City at night. But if they received the favors from the emperor or the empress, or they were on duty, they would be sleeping in those small rooms. So during the Ming Dynasty, there were around like 50 to 75,000 eunuchs work in the Forbidden City. During the Qing Dynasty, there were around 3,000 to 5,000 of them work in the Forbidden City. Yeah. Most of them had a very miserable life. They were given by those poor families and to those places where they specialize in castration. They were castrated when they were very young, and given to those places where they can receive a certain amount of money to put the family out of the poverty. So most of them, I would say 1 out of 100 probably had one chance to become super powerful and super wealthy, but most of them, 99% of them, had a very miserable life. They were not men, they were not a girl, and they were not allowed to be buried back to their ancestor tomb when they died. So unless they purchased their body part back from that places where they were castrated in the first place. So there's the main goal for those eunuchs was to buy their body part back to save enough money from that place where they were castrated. Because at first their parents need to sign the contract with that office and to sell the boy to that places. And then where they castrated and their body part will be kept in a jar, in an urn, which is filled with the limestone. And also that boy's contract also buried together in the limestone in that urn. And the urn would be kept on the roof of the building. It wouldn't be taken down until the day the eunuch saved enough money to buy them back. Okay, let's have a look. This is the picture of the eunuch in the Forbidden City. The picture is taken at around the time of 1900. The eunuch, they are very young. And besides their hats and their clothes, they had one thing. What else do they have in common besides their clothes and the hats? What do they have in common? On their appearance. Yeah, their faces are very smooth. No facial hair, no beard, because their body part was taken away, which makes their body cannot secrete enough hormone or testosterone to grow the beard. Okay, and the system was abolished in 1911. But the last eunuch died in 1996 at the age of 94 years old. This old man, who is a eunuch, died at the age of 94 in 1996. Okay, the last eunuch. So we have finished the tour of the outer court and the inner court. Let's take a look. Let's continue our tour to the inner court of the ladies' live. Okay, let's continue.